Okay, guys and girls, Nick Dutch back on the camera again one more time. Hi there, how the heck's it going? Just want to clear up a few points. That's what I like to do, just clear up a few points here, there, and everywhere. You know, it's very easy to fall into the New Age or the occult or the pagan or satanic equivalent of Bible literalism. Lots of people do that, and then they think that they've actually got knowledge. Or basically, have they really got knowledge, or have they just absorbed just another pile of myths? So they just started to develop just more literalistic beliefs. I mean, you can dedicate yourself to going through, let's say, the Lesser Key of Solomon and learning each and every single one of the 72 spirits the way it's described and defined there. Or alternatively, you can try and work out what the whole thing is about. Okay, you've got all the states of consciousness practices, you've got ritual practices, and then, you know, there's other things thrown in as well, like the possible idea of contacting something of a spirit nature. Now, generally speaking, a person who gets into all this kind of like weird stuff would have some kind of belief. Alright, they'd start off with a belief in the objective existence of spirits, or maybe not. Okay, those who do are actually starting off on the wrong foot, in my humble opinion. Now, the reason for this is that you can basically expect a bit too much. Alright, so on one side of things, you could be filling your head full of a lot of lies. For instance, if you think you're going to contact the spirit Floros, alright, you haven't really understood the fact that the spirit Floros is just a version of Horus. Alright, so the Lesser Key of Solomon is about you being yourself as a monotheist in whatever denomination or faith you are, but allowing yourself to contact other deities through the system. That's what it's about. It's not about contacting a supreme duke who's in charge of certain legions of spirits who are all, you know, under the control of that particular duke that looks like a leopard and God knows what else. You know, that's less important than trying to work out what it could be saying. But let's say you don't even want to do that, then that's not important to you. What else could you do? Number one, master meditation to the best of your ability. Try and keep up the practice, because you can lose the skills. Your brain will change with time as you learn different things, as you go through different forms of education. Okay, so your brain structure is changing all the time. So if you carry on doing a bit of meditation or prayer on a regular basis, you'll be trying to keep your brain back in that ability to get into all the states of consciousness of that type. Number two, when you've actually reached like a meditative state of mind and you've done maybe a bit of ritual just to make it feel right, make the moment feel right, assume or imagine that you're talking to a spirit. Alright? But treat it as a hypnotic mesmeric exercise. If something else happens, then great. But your goal there is to try and get into that meditative state of mind and stay there. And you can just see whether something else happens. And if it doesn't, then basically don't worry about it. Some people say fake it till you make it. I mean, maybe it's a question of, if you do fake it until you make it, you've got to wait until your level of belief or ability to assume that a spirit is there becomes stronger. This is essentially what all this demonology stuff is really about anyway. Okay? You can spend your time learning mythology, if you wish. If that's what you want to be, you want to become an expert in a mythology, great, go for it. But if you want to be able to do the task, there's a big difference between knowing the myths and knowing how to bring about some kind of strange effect. Alright? Now, I mentioned in my previous video, trying to treat an individual tarot card as if it was a spirit. Don't try and jump to the conclusion that there actually is a spirit of a tarot card. Instead, go into meditation and just try and treat it as if you're using like a litany or some kind of words as a form of guided meditation. And those words or ideas you're using happen to be based upon the idea that there is a spirit in the card. Of course, it doesn't really matter whether there is or whether there isn't, or indeed whether it's actually a part of your mind or the group consciousness or collective consciousness or the mind of God or whatever you want to fucking call it, that's actually doing something. Right? It doesn't have to be considered to be a real objective spirit. And nor does there have to be a real singular meaning to that one particular spiritual idea or that set of symbols. Essentially at all. Studying some mythology might help you. Maybe the first time you go through the study of the mythology, you just try and select a few symbols you want to use. For instance, I've chosen one that I tend to use an awful lot more than all the rest. And that's supposed to represent Florus, namely Horus. Alright, the Egyptian deity Horus. I haven't bothered to study all the rest of them, nor do I care to, and nor do I think that studying all the rest of them would actually do me any good when I'm going through a particular process. And I also don't think that you have to use certain specific ritual tools to banish a particular spirit. I mean, some people say, well, you can only banish this spirit with a sword, yes. Well, they think like that because they've been told to think like that, and they've had any form of free thinking taken away from them because they are what you might call a complete and utter D-bag. And there's lots of them around. Alright, unfortunately, especially associated with the New Age world or the occult world. As I say, you want to start a new religion based upon the Legacy of Solomon, go for it. You want to set up a new religion based upon Lovecraft's writings, go for it. Right? You can if you want to. In my opinion, that's a waste of your time, and you're just basically going to go through the process of confusing yourself even more. And you won't be focusing in on the actual tasks of learning the states of mind whereby strange stuff could hypothetically, or in my case by my experience, does seem to become more likely to occur. So I just wanted to reiterate that I made a mistake of going into a blog TV session. Someone I'd clicked the friend button on blog TV, and it turned out to be a couple of people who seemed to be rather proud of their satanic music and sounded like they were rather stoned, to be quite honest. And they typed in, the name of one of the demons, and they asked, well, who is this? And I thought, well, how am I going to answer that particular question? Am I going to tell you just what I know about that one particular spirit, just by its name, or just what the Legacy of Solomon says, or am I going to go back to a few of my source books and actually go into the history of the spirit and essentially what the what various conjuration tools could be about, whether there's any planets associated with it, any colours, or any particular methods that I personally have used that I may have notes on. But the moment I say just one moment, and I was about to go back to, as it were, my research, they blocked me and they called me a liar. The fact of the matter is, I'm not a liar. If I'm going to try and provide an answer, I want to try and provide one which is slightly better or more advanced than the more simplistic, literalistic ones. And I think that's what separates me from a vast majority of people within the New Age world. Because so many people, they're just looking out for more literalism, more fundamentalism, more ways to just simplify things for their pathetic little heads. And that's a real sad indictment on what this movement could be about. It really is. I mean, the fact that people want to simplify things, it's not good. Especially with a subject which could have an awful lot of benefit for an awful lot of people. And I just wanted to put that out there, because the variety of benefits that I see is a growth of self-knowledge, growth of understanding through spiritual or religious exercises or through meditation. People actually using meditation much more to be able to slightly influence their health. There's no cures to any diseases through any of this stuff, okay? I don't believe that there is, because I've seen no evidence for that. But if there's a way in which you can help, just like I've got digestive problems, if I use meditation, I can sometimes just ease it just a little and then get on with my day, which I think is great. And I would not have been able to do that if it wasn't for the fact that I was an occultist. Alright, so I can create a subtle difference in my bodily state as a result of being an occultist. It's not major, it's not massive. When things get worse, I still have to take medicines as well as looking after diet, nutrition, and every other normal thing on the face of the planet. But once in a while, I can help myself out. That's good. And then there's the other weird experiences which could possibly lead you to think that maybe there is consciousness which is all around us, that we are part of, and that there can be, under some strange circumstances, some form of thought transference, for instance in sharing dreams, doing astral projections, and all the rest of that kind of stuff, which essentially expands your horizons as to what life itself could really be about. And if it does that, then that's surely a very good thing, or at least a very interesting thing. And also it could, take you away from some of your concerns and make you think that maybe there is a reason for some of the things which happen on the face of the planet. Maybe we are just tiny little cells in a bigger brain. And maybe part of the social and political dynamics of the world is that brain growing and developing and changing just a little more. Just like your brain would if you were to, spend 3 hours a day playing on your chess computer, for about 3 months, and your brain would start to learn and grow and change, and you'd start to think about chess in a different way. So after your 3 months, you'd have got out of some bad habits and learned how to play the game better. Alright? Maybe that's what the process of living could hypothetically be about. Maybe that explains some of the good things as well as some of the bad things that happens in life. And maybe it's just an incredibly complex brain, and because social interaction is complex, human psychology is complex, global politics and economics is complex, and because of all of these things, we are living in a complex brain. We are tiny little organs in it. Maybe that could actually lead you to the thought that this thing that we're all a part of could possibly be God. Anyway. Yet more ramblings from the depth of my mind. Good fortune, God bless. Speak to you in a while. Nick Dutch signing out for now.